I've created 2 managers on Football Manager, one with the best current ability and one with the worst current ability to see who does better. I've locked them both at different clubs and I've given those clubs the same squads and the same facilities. Let's get into it. We're in League 2, ladies and gentlemen. We have not gone down to the Vanarama National League because only one team goes up automatically out of that league, and I didn't want one team to sort of get stuck behind the other in a bottleneck. So we've gone League 2 because loads of teams can go up from League 2. Now, Bradford City with the manager, Brad Ford. Yeah, that's his attribute breakdown. Current ability 1, potential ability 1. Transfer. He's joining Hitchin, a non-league club, in 2060. Why Hitchin, I hear you ask? Another video on the channel. Hitchin and Geesley did very well. Transfer embargo, whatever. There's Brad Ford at Bradford City. The facilities are as follows: 12 for training, 10 for youth, 10 for youth recruitment, 10 for junior coaching. I've also given them £100 million so they can keep up with those facilities or improve them if they so wish. And their squad is the usual squad that we have within these sort of experiments. However, instead of 90 current ability, they have 102 current ability, because I feel like most of the time in the first season, some players will jump up to like 110, 115, some will be about 100 to 105, and a few will not quite make it. So if we start off at 102, that's probably a fair boost for League 2 from the Vanarama National League. That was my thinking process behind it anyway. So there we go. Brad Ford, the manager of Bradford, the worst manager possible. And the other team, Doncaster. Can you guess his name? Yeah, it's Doncaster. Do you know what? I found it hilarious when I was making this. Now I say it out loud, it's not that funny, is it? But there you go. Bradford and Doncaster, managers of... I should have had them managing the opposite clubs. That would have screwed with everyone's head. Exactly the same for Doncaster. So 100 million, same facilities. You've got the same squad. Again, 102 for the lot of them. But of course, he has got a much better current ability. He's got the max current ability of 200, and that is the attribute breakdown. Now, a few subtle differences throughout this. We have the players, of course, they're here. Of course, the players are locked at the clubs and they move in 2045 to Saudi Arabia. That is the norm in these experiments. However, the managers, as mentioned, move in 2060. So they've got 15 years to rebuild those squads after all the players leave. So it'd be very interesting to see how they do that. Another thing, normally we have the transfer embargo at the clubs expiring as the players leave. Well, not today, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone 2040, 5 years before the players leave. So we are going to have the managers be able to utilise some of their money that they gain through prize money on the way up to the top, and then try and sign players, build a squad, survive, stay in the Premier League, lose all the players, get an influx of money, and hopefully rebuild from there. So there's quite a lot to sort of stick around for. Usually, we have a big peak at the beginning, we see one team winning, and then it sort of tails off. But there's quite a few intervals here where a few subtle differences where I feel it's going to cause a lot of little turning points and forks in the road. That being said, I think Doncaster's probably going to win because he's the better manager. But who knows? Well, we're all going to find out together. So, League 2, what's it saying? The season preview is as follows. Bradford first, Doncaster third. Work that one out. They've got exactly the same squad, exactly the same money, exactly the same facilities. Only Bradford have got the worst manager. Nice one, media. Let's go to 2024 and watch the media drop the ball. Well. So the media have well and truly dropped the ball. And I said I didn't want one team to not get promoted and the bottleneck to happen because of the Vanarama National League. Well, I've given the Bradford the perfect opportunity to get promoted, and they've absolutely fluffed it. 10th. They couldn't even finish in the top 7 and get playoffs. That is abysmal. We'll start with Bradford then, and you, Mr. Ford, should hang your head in shame. The youth recruitment's been moved to 11. The training facilities have remained at 12. They've lost £30 million over the season. The squad, well, if we look at the current abilities, we've got 105. They all start at 102, so 105 is not really a big improvement, but 122, and quite a few players, or loads of players, have hit 120 and above. Fine. So yeah, Skybet League 2. And the winners were Doncaster, as we saw there, 82 points. So they've gone up as champions. They've only lost £10 million. They've not improved any youth recruitment or anything like that. So maybe that's where some of the money's gone for Bradford. And again, a lot of the players at 120, a couple at 121, and then one player's got to 126 somehow. But yeah, 120 seems to be the bit of a hard cap, I think, personally. I think 120 seems to be the cap for the players with their facilities and the current league, which is going to be a problem for Bradford, considering that they're in League 2 at this moment in time. They're not going to be able to improve too much, whereas Doncaster in League 1 probably will be able to improve. The season preview says Bradford are 1 to 91 on to win, and they've got loads of players in the Media Dream 11. Doncaster in League 1, again, they are 6 to 5 on. They have not got they've got one player, in the Media Dream 11. That's centre mid 3 at 126. So they do need to improve quite a bit, but their squad is very well rounded, over 120 for every single player nearly. So I think they probably will go up at this first time of asking, especially considering that they've got the better manager. I think we're already seeing things fall into place. So without further ado, let's motor straight on to 2025. Okay, Bradford did win the league in the second season. They've won League 2 on 94 points ahead of Wrexham, who also went up with them on 83. So Bradford have won the league comfortably. But Doncaster also won the league comfortably in League 1 with 108 points. Very good season for them. So fair play to them. If you look at the season preview, 1-91 for Bradford, and we look at the squad. Right, so the hard cap of 120 was absolute bollocks because they've spent another season in League 2 and they're all at, look at this, 128, 130, loads in the 130s, 140 for Bradford Winger 3, so they've really flown. What's the personality type for them all? Fairly loyal. So the hard cap, completely disregard that, ladies and gentlemen, because that was just based on sod all. 130s for loads of the Bradford team, and the media think they're going to finish as champions. Speaking of champions, Doncaster Rovers have gone up into the Championship, and the season preview, the media think they're going to finish in second. Crystal Palace, who've come down and have got Elise, Eze, and a few other players, and the media think that they're going to go up as champions, whereas Doncaster are just ever so slightly outside favourites to go up in second, but they could win the league. We look at Doncaster themselves, again, their team doesn't look like it's improved massively more, or it's very, very similar to Bradford. Very similar indeed. The training facilities are up at 14. The youth recruitment and youth facilities have also been improved, as have the junior coaching. Have Bradford done anything like that? Yeah, training facilities up at 14 as well. Both teams are about 50 odd million pounds, so they've lost quite a bit of money, but they've invested it well. They've spent it well. You use it well, as they say in Harry Potter. So they've used it well. They've spent wisely. They can't really spend on anything else, to be honest, because, yeah, they can't. Well, there we go. Yeah, I think the teams are about the same. They are about the same, to be honest. Doncaster have got a player at 141, Bradford have got one at 140, and then they've got loads in the 130. So, yeah, I'd say it's about the same. There's not a lot really in between it. And, yeah, there we go. There's not a lot more to say at this juncture. We move on to 2026. Down in League 2, Bradford did win the league on 96 points, 10 points clear at the top. And Doncaster went up via the playoffs. Well, it was Norwich City that won the league, Crystal Palace in second, and quite a good few points further back were Doncaster. They did finish third, and they've won the playoffs. Let's have a quick look at the playoff schedule. Doncaster beating Middlesbrough 4-3 and then beating Burnley on penalties. Burnley had absolutely demolished Hull 6-0 over 2 legs. So Doncaster scraped through the playoffs. Despite finishing third, scraped through for promotion. So, but then you can't really begrudge them that, considering that they probably are slightly ill-equipped to go up to the Premier League at this time of asking. Bradford are going to be far more equipped because they've had an extra season in the lower leagues. Speaking of which, Bradford, well, second, 15-8, the media think. And we'll have a look at the squad now. There we go. A few players have got over the 140s, but they've not kicked on much past 140, loads in the 130s. So maybe that cap is coming into play. I mean, they are 20 years old now. Bradford's training facilities are still at 14. I think they need to up them to 16, 17 and really let these wonder kids thrive. Of course, he has not improved. I've not frozen their attributes either. I've just given him one potential ability. So his current ability and potential ability are just one. He's now favoured personnel along with Bradford Winger 4. Bradford Winger 3 is in the icons. And that's it. I'm sure loads will be in the club legends come the end of this experiment. Season preview, the Premier League thinks Doncaster Rovers are going to finish 12th in the Premier League, which is, comfortably safe. I think they probably will do as well. They've gone up to 16 training facilities. They've really kicked on and decided to upgrade those. Have the players got better than the mid 140s? You better believe it. 156. Now, that's a combination of playing at a higher level in the Championship and improving those training facilities more. So, perfect storm means loads of players in the 150s. I think 144 was the best for Bradford. Well, we're talking 12 players. They could probably field an entire 11 of the team that's better than Bradford's best player. So the gulf in class is starting to show. And is that anything to do with the manager? It might have a small part to do with it. I mean, I think the first season was definitely all managerial because they had the same squads, right? You looked at the first season, they were both at exactly the same. They could not have had more identical setups. Same players, same ability, same attributes, same everything. And Doncaster walked to the league, whereas Bradford finished 10th. The masters of their own downfall. They should go up in the Championship, but I'm not sure they will. I think the managerial issues at this point will really start to come into effect. The Championship is always a sticking point in these experiments as well. We always do see the Championship is the hardest league to get out of. Usually, Vanarama National League happens first, if not first time, second time. League 2 and League 1 are usually back-to-back promotions. As soon as you come out of the Vanarama National League, you go straight through up to the Championship, season by season. The Championship, sometimes on the channel when it's got the max attribute or the max hidden attribute or something, they do go up quite quickly. When you've got the lower end of the scale, and the attribute really does make a difference, we do see a few times teams do struggle, maybe 2, 3, 4 years in the Championship. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bradford are there for a good couple of years. I've waffled about this for about 30, 40 seconds now. Guarantee they go up first time because I said it all. Doncaster is favoured personnel as well, and Doncaster Winger 3 is also in the icons. So yeah, off we move to 2027. See how Doncaster fared in the Premier League and how Bradford did in the Championship. Well, shut me up, as I predicted. So I was kind of right on both counts. I predicted that Bradford wouldn't go up, but then I also predicted that because I'd said that, I was going to be wrong. And there we go. The most sitting on the fence prediction you've ever heard in your life, but I was correct. We'll take it, ladies and gentlemen. 5th, and they went up via the playoffs once again. Both teams have gone up via the playoffs, which is very interesting to me. Was this more convincing? They scraped through 3-2 against Fulham, and Burnley smashed Middlesbrough 5-1. I feel sorry for Burnley. Burnley have lost on penalties again. That's 2 seasons in a row Burnley have lost on penalties. That is heartbreaking for them. I feel really bad. I'm sorry, Burnley. The training facilities are still at 14 for Bradford, and Bradford is still a favoured personnel. The squad, yeah, there we go then. So the training facilities probably didn't make the world a difference in that. It was more about the level of competition. I think playing in the Championship this recent season has got these to the mid 150s and high 140s quite consistently. Doncaster Rovers, though, looking at the team, we'll have a quick look. They've got one player at 170, quite a few in the 160s and the 150s. So they've really kicked on. Training facilities are still at 16. And where did they finish in the Premier League? They didn't win it. They did not win it. They finished 12th, which is, I think, where the media thought they would. So that's very, very good from the media. Fair play to them. Season preview, Doncaster 10th, Bradford 13th. Man United have signed Donnarumma for £93 million from PSG. Florian Wirtz has gone to Manchester City for £140 million. Europa League football for Forest. Have they won the FA Cup? No. Oh, they just finished in 6th. Bloody hell, go on, Forest. United have won something. Thomas Tuchel's just won the Champions League with Man United from 7th. Carlo Ancelotti is the manager at Manchester City because Pep left and went to PSG. Happens very often, doesn't it? Mikel Arteta still at Arsenal. He's won a Premier League with them. He is still at Arsenal. Mikel Arteta is still representing. The only favoured personnel. You'd expect him to have garnered a little bit more favour. Poch is still at Chelsea, which does surprise me. Of course, we've just seen Tuchel's at United because Erik ten Hag usually does get sacked. I think that's very harsh indeed. He's the manager of the Netherlands. He's been the manager of West Ham as well as Erik ten Hag. But we're just doing a little manager merry-go-round at this moment in time because it's something that we do on the channel, and one of the things that we always do is we go and have a quick look at Ralph Hasenhüttl, who is the manager of Stoke City. He's been the manager of Austria, which we know he likes to do. He's also been at Leicester City, and he wasn't there for a long time at all. He resigned as manager of Austria after a bad run of form, unemployed for a few months, then became the Leicester manager. He was there for a calendar year. Started in January, left at the very end of December. Sacked after losing the confidence of the dressing room. And then he became the manager of Stoke. Again, he had a full year off, 2026 off, and he started on the 20th of January. He became the manager of Stoke. That's all there is to say at this juncture. In terms of Doncaster's team, I think some of these players will start to have been capped by England. They have. Doncaster centre mid 3 has got 6 caps to his name. Thomas Frank is in charge of England. France have won the World Cup. Oh, and Italy won the Euros for the second time in a row, beating England in the final for the second time in a row. We move on. Less said about that, the better. So 2028, here we come then. So Arsenal won the league ahead of Manchester City by 3 points. Doncaster finished 10th, exactly where the media said they would finish. And Bradford City finished 17th, which they've survived on goal difference. Now, the media thought Bradford would do much better, and they've underperformed. That's managerial for me. They've got the team, they've got the squad, they've got the players, they've got the training facilities up at 17 now. They've got £111 million. Absolutely loving life. They've got a player at 170, they've got 2 at 169, 1 at 168. Loads in the 160s now. They are all basically on the way to being world class. Bradford left back 2 is world class in my opinion. They've got a few players with international caps as well. Fair play to them. Doncaster Rovers, who finished 10th last season, I thought they'd exceed expectations. Their training facilities being at 15 is disappointing considering they've got £176 million in the bank. I'd expect them to improve those facilities. I think they need to, really, because their players are now at 170s, 174, a few at low 170s, and then in the high 160s. They need to improve those players a little bit more to really kick on. They're 22 years old now. The next couple of seasons is their boosted progression has stopped. They will still progress quite well till 25, and they very much could hit 200. Then from 25 to like 29, they will improve ever so slightly. But Doncaster, to go and start winning the league, they do need to improve these players a little bit more. So with those improvements, the media now think Doncaster and Bradford are actually going to be 9th and 10th. So they've really pulled that gap together. And the players that Doncaster have got, the media still think they're going to finish 9th. Sorry. So we've got 4 players in the 170s and then another. So we've got 11 players over 160. Well, over 165, really. West Ham. Not even got 1 player over 160. Newcastle. Brendan Rodgers in charge. 3 players over 160. United. 4 players over 165. So we've got a better bloody squad than Man United at this juncture. Tottenham. Onslaught's Tottenham, apparently. 6 players over 165. Again, they should be qualifying for the Champions League then, Doncaster, in my opinion. Anything less than Champions League qualification this season, underwhelming. Especially with a manager as good as Don. 2029 then. Here we go. They snuck it. They did sneak Champions League qualification. They were considerably clear of Nottingham Forest by 6 points. They were 7 points off Arsenal. So they've made 5th their very own position. And Bradford finishing in 8th was really, really impressive. Champions League football for Newcastle from 14th. Europa League football for Leeds from bloody 17th. Have a word. Right. So where do we even start here? We'll start with Bradford once again. Low 170s. So they've hit a peak. Are they going to improve much more than that? Doncaster? Well, their training facilities are now at 18. They've improved them from 15 to 18, which is exactly what they needed to do. Over £200 million in the bank. Get them up again. There we go. High 170s now. They've really kicked on and they've got a lot of players over 170. But they've got a lot of players in the 140s, 130s and 120s. So they haven't got a full squad of superstars, have they? They've just got, an 11. But they did finish 5th. The media think they're going to finish 6th this next season with Bradford in 8th. So Tottenham are now separating them, but Tottenham and Doncaster's odds are the same. So there's not a lot between them. And there's not a lot really to cover off. I don't think they're winning any cups, either of them. No, that's a 1911, that FA Cup. So no cups for them. We're going to do one more final jump to 2030 before we do a couple of bigger jumps as we move through. Okay, 2nd for Doncaster on 73 points. Bradford getting Champions League football from 6th. So somebody's won the Champions League or Europa League, but Bradford weren't in it. Doncaster were in the Champions League. They could have won the Champions League. I don't think they will have done. I think that will probably be one of the other teams which has caused an extra place to be pushed down, and Bradford have been the fortuitous recipients of that. Both teams getting Champions League football in 2030, which is great to see. We'll look at Bradford City first of all, because as I say, I don't think they're going to have got anything in terms of a trophy. They haven't, and there you go, a lot of their players in the 170, so they are hitting their peak. Will any of them get to 200? Possibly not. Could they have done better with the personality types? Possibly, but it is what it is. The teams were identical. And so from 2nd place, Doncaster Rovers, they did not win the Champions League, but they have really kicked on with their players. 190s, 180s, done really well. And I think the winning nature of the teams has really helped them. So in 5 years' time, when they're 29, which is when we're going to jump to in a moment, I think a few players will have hit 200. I won't be surprised if a couple of Bradford players do, especially if they improve those training facilities once again. They've got the money too. They've both got the money too. And the Champions League was won by Arsenal, beating Bayern Munich in the final, and they finished 5th. So that's probably why the place dropped down to 6th for Bradford City. So fair play, Bradford, you lucky sods. There we go. Before we go to 2035, let's have another little check-in on Ralph. He's the manager of Belarus. He left Stoke. He got sacked from Stoke, to be fair. Sacked as the manager of Stoke due to the club's poor league position. Hired as the Belarus manager 2 years later. Over 2 years later. In 5 years' time, he might well be gone. We're going to go to 2035 and see who's going to start winning some trophies. But I think it's cut and dry that really the better manager has been Doncaster. Although he's not done that much better, has he, really? But there's still a long way to go. But we are going to be doing 5-year jumps now. We're going to do 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and then maybe just do 50 to 60. We'll see. So we were last here, and of course Doncaster were 2nd, Bradford were in 6th. We never looked at the media prediction, but I think Doncaster probably would have been close to potentially winning it. And they did win it the following season. 84 points, comfortably ahead of Chelsea. Bradford down in 7th. And then the following season, Tottenham won the league. Bradford and Doncaster, 3rd and 4th respectively. Bradford have never been closer, I don't think. Oh, Doncaster won, Bradford 2nd. The top two were the two sides. the worst manager is actually having a bloody good time. And without Doncaster there, I think he'd probably be doing quite good work. We might do a perfect the worst manager as a separate experiment. We'll see. Again, another one. 100 points for Doncaster, 81 points for Bradford. And again, Doncaster have won. Bradford in third this time. The Doncaster have won, what, 4 Premier Leagues? 4 Premier Leagues, yeah, for Doncaster. Now, Bradford City have got quite a lot of players in the 190s. Brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And then Doncaster have also got 199s, 1200s. They've probably got some... Right, have we won some FA Cups and Carabao Cups as well? Yes, we have. 3 for Doncaster, 1 for Bradford City. And Carabao Cups, 2 for Bradford in 3 finals in a row. And in terms of Champions Leagues, well, Doncaster have won 2. Doncaster beating Bradford in the 2032-33 final. They actually got to the final in 31 as well and lost to Arsenal. 3 in a row for Arsenal. And then Bradford have won most recently against West Ham. West Ham in the Champions League final. Did not expect that. Did not expect that whatsoever. Now, in terms of the managers, in terms of the players in the national team, they're all, 99% of the players are all for Doncaster and Bradford. And we've got, so what's the split then between Bradford and Doncaster? We've got 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for Bradford, 12 for Doncaster, which I think is really, really interesting. And if we look at the players, we've got 11 players at 199 or 200, 6 more players at 191 to 198. And then the worst players that we've got from Bradford, that's all of Doncaster's players are accounted for. The worst players we've got from Bradford are down at 178, which is still world class in my opinion. So England have got to have won something. Marcelino's in charge. Who else has been in charge? Jose. They've not won a World Cup. Spain and Brazil have won World Cups. England did get to the final. Zidane's in charge of Spain. And France have won both Euros since we were last here. Well, bloody hell. How have England not won anything with this squad? How? Answer me that. Winning Champions Leagues left and right. Bradford and Doncaster. Premier Leagues, 4 in the last 5 years. We're going to go another 5 years to 2040, but I'm expecting big things to be happening for England, as well as, well, Doncaster are just going to keep cleaning up, aren't they? Going to wipe the floor with Bradford. Although Bradford, they've got the squad. I think the big thing that's going to be is when the players leave, how will they all recover? That'll be the big test. So yeah, Doncaster won it there in 34-35, and again, they've won it again. So is that 5-0 to them in Premier Leagues? I mean, we're not keeping a scoreboard, but, Bradford beating Doncaster by a point. It could have been the final day. Arsenal were also involved as well at 85 points. It could have been the final day, sort of a bit of drama. But Bradford City have got themselves a league title. And another. Doncaster then win again. Bradford third. And Bradford have won again. And Doncaster in fourth. So that's 3 Premier Leagues for Bradford and 6 for Doncaster. So for having the best manager versus the worst manager, I'll be honest with you, Bradford are doing quite well. The transfer embargo is about to be eclipsed. In terms of Champions Leagues, Doncaster have won 3 in a row. Bradford won 2 in a row. So it's 5-2 in Champions Leagues to Doncaster. Taking it to the Italians, aren't they? Inter, Juve and Napoli. Fair play. A lot of the players are all depreciating now. They're 34 years old, but look at them. 192, 191, 187s. So they are going to start to fall away. But like I say, the transfer embargo is up at this moment in time. It's going to be ending this summer. Bradford have over £1 billion in their bank and a budget of £289 million to spend. Doncaster, again, have very similar, £314 million to spend, just £1.1 billion in the bank. So we've got a lot of opportunity to replace some of these players over the next 5 years before they actually leave. And then we've got another big influx of money coming in. So I'm expecting them not to be relegated. The reality is these two should carry on dominating at the top of English football until 2060 when we call it quits. So let's go to 2045 and see, just before these players leave, how everything's been going. The question is, have they spent the money? So Bradford had won the league, and then the following season, well, Bradford finished 13th and Doncaster won the league. So Bradford fell away, and then Doncaster 3rd, Bradford 7th. Then Doncaster 3rd, Bradford 13th. Then 11th for Bradford, 3rd for Doncaster. West Ham winning the league here. West Ham just coming through. Doncaster 7th, Bradford 14th. Right, so Bradford have got £310 million. They've not won another Champions League. Spending £223 million there. They bought Marco. They spent the big money on him. And it had to be a name that... Right, we're going to go for it, ladies and gentlemen. Right, here we go. Marco Vladisavljevic. Vladislav Lievich. That's not too bad. Vladislav Lievich. It's quite a cool name, actually, once you get your tongue around it. £35 million on him from Bayern Munich. £54 million for Roberto Alonso. £203 million spent here. 65 on Pedro Jesus Domingo. Manuel Bartolini from Leeds. £66 million. Michael Elgert, a couple of seasons ago from Bayer Leverkusen. He's wanting to leave for continental football. Doncaster want him. That is interesting. But they are spending the money, so they're spending over £200 million a season. They've got a £200 million budget, and they're spending it pretty much every season. First season, they spent £146 million. So to me, Bradford, they're spending the money badly. They are spending the money badly. I did notice one of those players that they spent over £100 million on. He's now 33, and he bought him a couple of seasons ago. At best, he was 30. I think he would have been 31. £705 million in the coffers for Doncaster. Now, don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean they've not spent as much, because they've been getting Champions League football regularly, which means they're a lot more prize money, finishing considerably higher in the Premier League, which means, again, a lot more prize money. Again, Champions League football, continental football as well, whatever it's been. More gate receipts, more games, more profits at the end of the day. In terms of transfers then, 2041, they spent £418 million in that first season. Wowzers. That is insane. £75 million on Frederick Metz, who is now 28 years old. This was 5 years ago. He has been, well, he's not a bad player. 173, yeah, very good. Great signing there. Francisco Coelho, again, £61 million from Liverpool. Again, I'm happy with that transfer. I'm just clicking on a couple of the bigger money ones. Jesus Rivas, well, £48 million from Bayern Munich 5 years ago at 28. He'd been in his peak. He's phenomenal now. Take that. 42.5 million the following season. That is, I'm not sure why they spent so little there. Then 51 million, then 57. Here we go, now £269 million. Sergi Perez from Ajax, 21 years old. What a signing. What's his 170 potential ability? I wanted it to be higher, really, but I'm very impressed with that. £81 million. Mateo Ruiz, he's 29. Don't like that. Doesn't look great either. He looks all right, just didn't look that great. Yeah, they've done some good bits of business. I mean, to be honest, I've not looked at some of these other ones like, here you go, Valladolid. Okay, he's 22 years old, 147 years, so that's not really worth looking at. But Jonas Dew, 12.75 from FC Midtjylland, 168 potential ability. Great signing. Eduardo Silva from Nacional, £4.6 million. He's got a potential ability 154. They've done quite well, actually. So some of these players that they're buying, I'm actually very impressed with. They've really looked at some of the youth prospects. £8.75 million from Chivas, 184, and he's now at his potential. He's a perfectionist, and he's absolutely out of this world. Look at that polygon. That is a polygon of a centre-back. Like, you give me, if I'm going looking for a centre-back and I see a polygon like that, you better believe I'm breaking the bank. And if I can find someone who's got the beginnings of that's just going to bump out with their potential for £8.75 million, I'm laughing my way all the way to the bank. What a signing he was in the second season when they had the money. He went a bit mad first season, not going to lie. Spending big, £418 million. Unnecessary, to be honest. But they have bought some good wonder kids. Anyway, Doncaster, they haven't won another Champions League either. Sorry, they have. They did win another Champions League in 40-41. That was 4 in a row, but that was the last time they won it. They did lose in the final to Bayern Munich in 44, but the players are all about to leave. And we're about to get £400 million each per team. But that's going to be a big test for Bradford. I wouldn't be surprised if they got relegated. We're going to go forward 5 years now again to 2050, see how they rebuild. So, Bradford were on the ropes. They lost all the players. That being said, they did recover. They didn't suffer with those players being gone because they had been buying players for 5 years. So I think this is why a lot of people in the comments do say transfer embargo should end sooner, because they want teams to stay in the Premier League. But when we're doing attribute tests and breakdowns, I want to see the depreciation of players, which is why I don't normally do that. But because it's about the managers and how they then rebuild, and this is a very valid part of this experiment, so I've done the transfer embargo. Anyway, Doncaster 4th, Bradford 13th. So they did survive that first season. 15th and 6th, respectively. So Europa League football for Doncaster. So I think cut and dry here. Leeds have won the league. I missed that. Leeds won the league twice in a row. West Ham won it again. Doncaster 5th, Bradford 12th. Doncaster back up in 2nd. Bradford 13th. And most recently, Doncaster have won the league. Bradford still 12th. So Bradford mid-table, the senior squad. They got some alright players, a couple of good players here. Arnold Raymakers, £23 million from Genk. What a signing he was. 183. 182, 172 here, 170, 165, and 150s and 140s. They need a few better players to sort of kick on, but that's why they're mid-table. Doncaster Rovers and Doncaster himself. They've got £144 million in the bank. As we can see here, their team it's a bit better, isn't it? They've got a few more players in the 160s and that, but again, only one player in the 180s. But they are few and far between, aren't they? And it's here we go, it's Eric Arellano, it's this guy, £8.75 million from Chivas. He's still there. Becoming a club legend of this save. Have they won any more trophies then, other than that one Premier League? They have. They won a Champions League last season, beating PSG in the final. This season, Leeds beating Man City in the final. You love to see it, don't you? So there's not really much more to check in on at this juncture. I think we're going to be looking at... We'll have a quick look at Ballon d'Ors, the World Golden Ball. Yeah, a few players for Doncaster have won. Winger 3 has won 3 and Winger 1 won 1. Lamine Yamal just cleaned up. Lamine Yamal is now the assistant manager of no one. He's stayed at Barcelona for his entire career. Won loads of Ballon d'Ors. Football of the Year, yeah, loads of Doncaster players. Player of the Year, again, loads of Doncaster players. So Bradford haven't won any of those. Look at the Team of the Year. We're a bit squiffed out because of the last 5 years, but we've got Doncaster, Bradford, Doncaster. So only Bradford centre-back 3 has got himself in the media World Team of the Year for all seasons up to this point. We do have Bradford right-back 1 on the bench. There is that. The rest of the players are Doncaster and like Erling Haaland, Lamine Yamal, etc. And Jesus Rivas actually is in there, a Doncaster player, but not one of the players. That's interesting in its own right. But the World 11 is predominantly Doncaster. You've got Lamine Yamal, Erling Haaland, and Bradford centre-back 3 for all seasons in 2050. Very impressive from a team that started in League 2. The best manager has wiped the floor with the worst manager, especially in the transfer market since it's kicked on. So maybe there is actually quite a lot in it in terms of the manager attributes and the like. But we're going to go through the final 10 years just to see what happened. Let's go to 2060. Oh, okay. So we haven't ticked over. And the first thing I can see is I can only see one note, and that's Doncaster. Bradford are nowhere to be seen. Past winners. So in the last 10 years, Doncaster have won the league two more times. They've not won any Champions Leagues. Their manager has left. He's resigned. Doncaster left as a club legend. Better believe it. You've got a 57,000 capacity stadium, and they've got probably a very good squad that he's left them. Yes, he has. Oh, he's left him a great squad. Henry Carpenter, 182. Josh Weston, another great player. Came through the bloody youth academy. Bit of that. Casey McDonald, 24. Signed for £66,000. He's driven. He's got a potential of 191. Get him played. Get him. He's been played. He might get there. He probably will get there, actually. But where are Bradford City? 9th in the Championship. 9th in the Championship. So their squad's going to be nothing to speak of. Nothing to write home about. The domestic leagues then. Well, they came down in the 2055-56 season, finishing 18th, and they've stayed in the Championship ever since. They've been on the periphery of the playoffs, just outside a couple of seasons. In it the season before last. They were not successful, and then they've fallen back to 9th in the most recent season. So not a bad showing for Bradford. Of course, because their manager, has been, is very underwhelming. Because he's the worst manager, they were never going to do anything anywhere near close as what Doncaster could. He's still retired as a club legend, or should we say, gone off to be a club legend. He's moving to Hitchin on the 1st of the 7th. So yeah, he's resigned just before his contract starts with that new club. I'm not sure why they've both resigned from their clubs. That's not something that normally happens. But Doncaster has actually gone down from 200 to 198 in terms of his current ability. He's 64 years old. They might actually carry on as managers for a bit. I don't think Brad is going to do much. He's probably going to get sacked straight away and then never go and do anything. But Don could actually go on and have a bit of a future bit of a career. He might even come back to Doncaster at some point. You never know, do you? Anyway, that's it. That's the end of today's experiment. It's the best manager versus the worst manager. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed this one. I thought it was quite a lot of fun. I think we might try other variations of this kind of thing with other managerial sort of breakdowns and stuff. So any ideas in this kind of arena and management simulations, do let me know in the comments, because I do love a management sim, and you guys do too as well. I get so many comments on some of these saying, oh, I love the management sims, do more management sims. Well, and it's the most viewed video on the channel, my perfect manager simulation. So yeah, I know you guys love them. So any ideas you've got, I'm all ears, and I'll try and bring more management sims in the future. But for now, like the video, subscribe to the channel, take good care of yourselves, gang, and I'll see you soon.